Welcome back, all of my low-carb friends, and for those of you who are new and visiting for the first time, welcome, welcome. Today we have another recipe that comes by request. Jeffrey Martino asked if I knew how to make some keto pasta recipes. And yes, I do know how to make keto pasta. If you've seen my other video on how to make low-carb pasta, you've probably noticed that even though it was lower in carbs than traditional pasta, it is not a keto-friendly pasta, and it is not gluten-free, which means those who have wheat allergies and gluten intolerance can't enjoy that pasta recipe. And we just can't have that. So today, our pasta recipe is keto-friendly and gluten-free. So all of you who have wheat allergies and gluten intolerant, you can still enjoy real pasta. And if you want printable versions of these, you can check out my website at janet'sdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find printable versions of these and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Also, right next to the subscribe button, there's a little notification bell. Make sure you click that notification bell. That way you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And while you do that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Generously spray a 9x13 cookie sheet with cooking spray, or reasonably close to that size. In a large blender or large mixer bowl, add 1/4 cup or 2 ounces of room temperature softened cream cheese. Make sure it is softened, it will beat in a lot smoother. Now I'm actually using the garlic and herb flavored spreadable cream cheese, and I just leave it at room temperature so it softens up so it beats in better. But I've used this with block cream cheese before and it works just fine. I just wanted a little bit more flavor to my pasta, so I did the garlic and herb. It's up to you, whatever type of cream cheese you want to use. Just make sure, as I said, it is softened and room temperature. Beat the cream cheese on medium for about 1 minute or until it is completely smooth. Scrape down the sides of the bowl and push the cream cheese to the center of the bowl. Then add 4 large room temperature eggs. Again, make sure they are room temperature. Room temperature ingredients is very important in this recipe. Otherwise, your ingredients will not mix together smoothly. So really make sure everything is room temperature. Once you've added the eggs, beat on medium-low for another minute or until everything is combined and creamy. Scrape down the sides once again. Give it a little bit of a whisk just to make sure there are no lumps of cream cheese hiding in there. You want to make sure it is very, very smooth. Once you've made sure that the mixture is smooth, add 2 teaspoons of coconut flour and beat on medium-low for another minute or until everything is fully combined and smooth. Scrape down the sides once again and push everything to the center of the bowl. Whisk the mixture by hand one more time just to make sure there are no lumps in there. Sometimes the coconut flour can get little tiny lumps and hide in there. You really want to make sure you get every single lump out. Pour the batter into your prepared cookie sheet and tilt the cookie sheet slightly from side to side until the entire bottom of the cookie sheet is completely coated with the mixture. It will be thin. You want it to be nice and thin like that. This is where the size of your pan really is important. If you have it too small, then your noodles are going to come out thick. If you have it too big, it's going to come out too thin and your noodles will be see-through and break apart on you. So as close as you can get to that 9x13 size is what you want. So keep tilting it until it's fully covered evenly over the bottom. Make sure it is as even as you can get it. Gently place it in the oven. Bake it at 350 for 5 to 7 minutes or until it's just starting to get golden around the edges. Mine actually took 6 minutes. Everybody's oven is different. You're just looking to make sure that the mixture is no longer watery and that it is just very, very slightly starting to get gold around the edges. Once it's done, remove it from the oven. Let it cool for just a minute or two. That way you don't burn your fingers when you're cutting it. You'll probably see some air bubbles coming up. It's okay. They'll deflate in a couple minutes after it cools. Once it's cool enough that you can touch the pan without burning yourself, use a pizza cutter or a knife and cut the noodles into your desired size. I'm making them just a little bit smaller than fettuccine noodles, but whatever size you're wanting them, that's the size you cut them in. Be very careful, the noodles can be a little fragile. Once you've cut the noodles into the desired slices, very carefully remove each individual noodle just by very gently rolling your finger underneath the noodles, and then place them on a serving plate. Remember to be very careful, these noodles can be fragile, so just be careful when you're taking them out. If you are planning on doubling this recipe, because again, this only serves 2, then you'll need to use 2 baking sheets. So it's best if you are wanting more noodles just to make 2 separate batches. That way they cook up better, because if you try to double the recipe and then you're trying to put half of the mixture into one cookie sheet and half the mixture in another cookie sheet, you end up not proportioning it out right, and then it doesn't cook properly. So it's best if you want more than just 2 servings to make 2 separate batches. They don't take that long, so it won't be that big of a deal to make more than 1 batch. Once the noodles are all removed from the pan, place the desired amount on a plate. You can eat them as is with a little oil and herbs on it, or you can put whatever topping you want and eat and enjoy. In a large mixing bowl, combine a half cup of almond flour, 1½ tablespoons of coconut flour, 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Whisk these together until they're fully combined and there are no lumps in the flour. Set that aside for just a second. In a small bowl, crack 1 egg and whisk it just until the yolk is all broken up. And set that aside for just a second. We'll be using that in just a second. Add 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to the bowl with your dry ingredients in it. Whisk these together until the vinegar is a little bit combined with the dry ingredients. Then take the bowl with the beaten egg in it and scoop out 2 tablespoons of the beaten egg. Now, if you're doubling this recipe, then you would use the whole egg, but I'm just making a small batch which yields about 2 servings. But if you're wanting to double this where it serves 4, then you would put this whole beaten egg in it. But since I'm just making a small batch for 2, I'm only using 2 tablespoons of the beaten egg. Once you've added the beaten egg, then beat on medium-low for another 30 seconds or until the egg is fully combined with all of the dry ingredients. Make sure your egg is room temperature, that way it beats in a lot smoother that way, and so you'll have a lot smoother pasta. Keep the mixer running on medium-low and add a 1/2 teaspoon of room temperature water, and let the mixer run for another 20-30 seconds just to make sure the water gets fully incorporated in the dough. Then continue to keep the mixer running and add another 1/2 teaspoon of water and continue to let the mixer run for another 20-30 seconds or until a soft, smooth dough begins to form and there's no dry ingredients left in the bowl. Once the dough is fully beaten together, roll the dough into a tight ball, and if there are any creases in it, then your dough is a little bit too dry and you need to add a little bit more water to it. If you can form it into a completely smooth ball, that's when you know your dough is good to go. If there's any creases in it and you can't smooth it out into a nice, smooth, slick ball, then you need to add more water. If you can roll it into a nice, smooth ball, then you're good. Then take the ball and massage it into your hands for about 2 minutes or until everything is completely smooth and the dough is just a little bit on the stretchy side. Once you've massaged it for 2 minutes, roll it back into a ball, place it back into the mixer bowl, cover the bowl with plastic wrap, and place it in the refrigerator to let it rest for about 30 minutes. This just helps so all the ingredients stays fully locked together. Once the dough is rested, take it out of the refrigerator and uncover it. Massage the dough in between your hands just a little bit, just to take off a little bit of that chill. Then place the dough onto a clean work surface and roll or press out the dough as thin as possible, around an 1/8 inch thick or even thinner, as thin as you possibly can. Once the dough is all rolled out nice and thin, then use a pizza cutter and cut the pasta dough into the desired size pieces that you want your pasta to be. Now, if you want to see more about how to shape your pasta by hand into different shapes, then you can check out my video on how to make low-carb pasta. The pasta in that video itself is not a keto-friendly pasta, but it does show you how you can shape the pasta. So if you're wanting to know more about how to shape the pasta by hand, you can check out that video. Once the pasta's all shaped into your desired shape and size, I just cut mine into about the size of fettuccine noodles. Place them on a lined baking sheet and place them in the freezer for at least 15 minutes. This is just to make sure that the shape of the pasta is really nice and locked in place. That way when you go to cook it, it doesn't fall apart on you. You can leave this in the freezer for longer than 15 minutes if you want to, but if you do leave it a lot longer than 15 minutes and it starts getting actually frozen, you'll need to take it out and thaw it just for a couple minutes before you cook it, because you do not want it to be completely frozen when you cook it. So 15 minutes is perfect. Once you're ready to actually cook your pasta, in a large skillet, place 1 tablespoon of oil of your choice. I'm using avocado oil. You can use any oil you want. Turn your heat on to medium-low. Then add 2 tablespoons of butter and allow the butter to melt completely over medium-low heat. Once the butter is fully melted, give it a little stir and make sure everything is fully combined together. Then reduce the heat to low. Sprinkle in about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. These are optional. It just gives your pasta a little bit more flavor, but you don't have to put them in if you don't want to. Add your pasta to the skillet and place it in a single layer. Don't stack it on top of each other. It cooks a lot better when it's just a single layer, so don't overcrowd it. Give it a little tiny bit of a stir just to make sure that the butter and oil are coating the pasta. You don't want to stir it too much because you don't want to break the pasta. It is still a little fragile. Cook for about 3 minutes on the one side. After 3 minutes, stir it a little bit and turn the pasta over to the other side and cook for another 3 minutes or until the pasta is tender but still is firm. This is going to give you more of a texture that's closer to a wheat pasta rather than a white floured pasta. So generally wheat pasta still is fairly firm. They call it al dente. It's tender, but it still has a firmness to it. So most wheat pastas are like that. So this is going to have more of the taste and texture of a wheat pasta. So if you're not a huge wheat pasta fan, you may or may not like it, but try it anyway, even if you're not a wheat pasta fan. It's really good. If you do want a pasta that is a little more soft, then instead of cooking it in the frying pan, you can fill a 5-quart stock pot about 2/3 full of water, put a teaspoon of salt in it, bring the water to a full boil, and put the pasta in there for only about 1 to 2 minutes. You have to be very careful if you are boiling homemade pasta that has not been dried. because it cooks really quickly and it can go from being nice and tender to being a mushy blob real fast. I mean, literally within seconds. So that's why I do it in the skillet rather than in a stock pot. But like I said, if you're not a big fan of the al dente texture and you want a little bit softer, you can try it in the boiling water for maybe 45 seconds to a minute, not very long at all. Once it's cooked to how you like it, scoop the desired amount onto a plate, serve it with your desired toppings, and eat and enjoy. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you click the thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button. You can leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.